Hello and welcome to the AstroPub, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Captain's Table. This is a podcast where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen in various different forms. We usually have a specific topic. Sometimes it's theory crafting. Sometimes it's a very specific news element. We kind of go all over the place. But I try to have different people every week, though I do often have repeat guests, and as Nick pointed out at the very beginning when we were preparing, it's like I have had this, we've done this exact same show around this exact same time multiple times in the past, so which will come up in the discussion as well. But before we get to that, let's introduce everybody. I'm going to start with Nick. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you? And your beautiful eyes.
It's Todd Happy Eyes that Jack keeps commenting on every single time. But yes, I am Nick. You can find me on Twitch at HeyItsNick. You can find me around the verse, hanging out with friends, being social, doing a lot of fun stuff. Currently taking a hiatus break from Star Citizen, probably until 4.0, which I think is just for my own mental health. And but other than that, enjoying other games such as Baldur's Gate 3, Palia, and
we're not.
Well, I was, but I will be installing it later. I just needed to not be tempted to reopen it and try again anyway, and bang my head against a wall. So, anyways, you can find me on Twitch. Hey, it's Nick with 2 Y's. I deleted Twitter recently, so yeah, I'm not on Twitter anymore. But you can find me on Threads on Hey, it's Nick.
Nice. And the Prince of Pluto, Emperor of Uranus, Mr. Darjanator himself. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hello there. I am Darjanator, and I am Paul's best choice for filling an empty seat.
Yes.
And it has everything to do with me not having anything to do on a Saturday night, and absolutely nothing to do with the words that are about to come out of my mouth. But I have given Paul a promise that I will keep my lascivious language to a minimum for the first 10 minutes, just so we can appease the YouTube algorithm gods. But go. Stopwatch running. But yeah, my role in the Star Citizen verse as a whole has currently been relegated just to working at JRDF right now, because even my previous my favorite pastime of laughing at idiots on Reddit has taken a bit of a hiatus as well.
Yeah, like Nick with Star Citizen.
So if there's any drama that's to be discussed on this show today, I am completely out of the loop. But if we're sticking to the topic that was presented, I'm sure that I'll be able to regurgitate my points from the previous couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. If you don't know, JRDF is the only licensed company that creates Star Citizen kit models, and you can get them at JRDF.se. And if you go to one of the German bar citizens coming up this month and the next month, you will be able to get a good discount. So
there we go.
So look us up. What else? Is there anything else?
You also do the SegDev, the dev segment.
Oh yeah, that thing. Yeah. It's actually up to date now.
Yeah.
I've been good. I've been a good boy. So yeah, it's basically just a spreadsheet I keep of every segment ever of around Reverse and inside Star Citizen, and some Star Citizen lives and Reverse Diverses where they actually do stuff, like the past couple of Star Citizen lives with Elliot Maltby. Those are actually included, because it's not just talking, it's actually creating something, so I include those. But yeah, at current count, over 400 devs have been featured in these shows by Jared Huckabee. And yeah, all the timestamps and everything, so yeah.
Nice. It's a great resource for people. I know Tree swears by it. It's a great resource for people. If you're like, I remember a dev said this at some point. It's like, yeah, just choose, find the department they're working in, and here's a list of all the things they're talking about. So it's a really good resource for that.
Right. And yeah, if you want to know more about me, Darjanator.com, that I need to update because I have also recently deleted deleted Twitter. I am not on Threads because that's still illegal in the European Union. But I am on Blue Sky.
Like a story. Okay.
Well, it's just because they don't want to back down from just the amount of data they're scraping from their users and selling it onwards. So yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's been made illegal. It's just they're not allowed.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing.
And to clear up some confusion, because people are also asking in some of the chats, wait, is this live? It's like, yes, the way that this is done now. Shut up, Darsh.
It's pre-recorded. It's pre-recorded. It's not live.
The way this is done now is I do it live, and then I usually would put it up as a separate segment, like a separate video. But those videos have been performing so poorly as of late that it actually hurts the channel. So I just leave it up as a VOD for people who wanted to watch it, because I think people tend to watch the full thing anyways. And if not, then But with that being said, let's talk about the topic, which is already why you clicked on this video. It's why you're watching this live, because I made the clickbait. And it's not meant as a clickbait, as a gotcha. It's meant as we're going to talk about this, which is Pyro. I call this the endless road to Pyro because, as Nick joked about, I was setting everything up, and Nick was like, I remembered this exact conversation, and it was with Darj last year, this time last year. And I was like, oh God, that's right. And I was like, this probably has come up. We've probably done this twice already.
Yeah, and talking about, me and Darsh have both been on talking about server meshing once before, and I've been on talking about server meshing twice before. So
yes,
I've been on so many times I don't even know how many times I talk about server meshing. So there you go.
Yeah, so that should give you the at least the initial context. I'll give a quick rundown for people who are brand new to Star Citizen or who have come in this last year to kind of explain why people, especially us older backers, our seasoned backers, are probably a little burned out about this discussion. But the answer is, we've known that Pyro has been the planned second system to be put into the game since the 2.0 days. So like 2015, I think, 2015. And we also had first really started seeing evidence that, or CIG started talking about putting Pyro in the game in 2019, because at the end of the CitizenCon presentation in 2019, which was the last live CitizenCon, by the way, was them going to Pyro and talking about some of the technology.
The very badly and hacky pre-rendered cinematic. And
yes,
I gotta say, because it's quite obvious that it was not in engine and not working at all.
They arrived at Pyro cinematic. It was not actually in engine.
Yeah,
which meant that they just put the effects and the wormhole, all of that stuff, the jump point in the same server, and then just invented a map area that they went out to it's probably all smoke and mirrors, but
yeah. It was probably running in engine, but not actually with the assets. It was more like
meant to be. Yeah,
it was like a scripted animation playing out in engine, but not actually anything, just art, not assets.
Yeah.
And that ever since then, CIG has been kind of doing we're working on Pyro. We want Pyro to be coming in next year. And the thing that we have to understand, that the community has to understand about Pyro and 4.0 is that they're attached at the hip. Specifically, back when there were the 3.9 days, people were like, well, the next patch has got to be 4.0 because you don't go we don't have a 3.1 and a 3.10 because they're the same. But CIG says it doesn't matter what logic is. We're just going to do what we want.
Well, it's not a decimal. It's not like patch 3.9 is like almost patch 4. It's like it's the 9th sub patch of patch 3.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is. And you can have just like with PTUs, you can have they denominate them with letters. We've gone all the way around the alphabet. We had 3 AA. Yeah. And AB, so it's It's not numbers, folks. Well, it is numbers. It's not a decimal system. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, it's built on its own logical system. It's not specifically decimals. But that whole topic actually brought up a point, which was CIG said, and I think this was Xylo, Tyler Witkin said himself, the official announcement was that 4.0 was reserved for another major evolution, another major push to the game, which would be Pyro and server meshing. And since then, this was
like 3.0 was landable planets.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so ever since then, CIG has said that Pyro as a star system is required, or to get that into the game, they need to have server meshing in some way, shape, or form in the game. Now, there has been some confusion since then, which I'll briefly talk about, and then we can discuss about it a little bit later when we talk about other things that came up at the very beginning of this year, where the server meshing team seemed to be talking about in a video that the concept of the traveling through the jump point and server meshing are two different problems. So that added some confusion in there, but as far as we know, last we heard, Pyro requires server meshing, so they both need to be in the game before. You're not going to see necessarily like a loading screen where you just go from one point to another. It doesn't work like that because CIG wouldn't build it like that.
Yeah, we could have had Pyro in a long time ago if they decided to just add a loading screen or a selection menu, the selection in the menu. But that's not the way CIG does things.
Yeah, they really want server meshing to be a main focus on the technical side of things. And how can you show server meshing working without traversing between star systems? I mean, you could show like 200 players like in a single area on a moon, but what's that going to mean to a local player? Absolutely nothing if if there's only 200 players around. Just say a moon around Stanton. I mean, are you going to bump into that many? Yeah, it'll look busier and everything, but like outside of that, server meshing isn't really going to mean a whole lot unless you can actually travel to another system and be like, I am meshing servers now versus, I am just
like the end point is to have server meshing be completely invisible and have various servers for various moons and planets. But that doesn't. If you can't see it, that means it almost doesn't exist. So there has to be, for at least, for the first iteration, there has to be some grandiose transition to something new and alien to show that you're actually on another server and you went there without a loading screen, without going back to the menus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even though it's technically a loading screen.
It is technically a loading screen.
It is technically loading,
but it's more of a transition screen.
Yeah. It's a gamified loading screen where you got the tunnel, you're flying in the tunnel, it's unloading everything and loading everything back in around the tunnel, and then you pop out of it when everything's loaded.
And it's still
a loading screen.
And it's still going to happen when you go between like dynamic meshing servers or not dynamic, static mesh servers. You're still going to have that as well, but you're most likely going to be going through quantum travel, so they can still do that loading and unloading thing.
Yeah, and quantum travel has been called a loading screen forever as well. So. Yeah.
Which is all technically true. It's
so true.
The game is loading and loading things while you do it.
Unless if you watch, what was it, the ISC this week? Where he went into engine and just ramped up the speed. No, it was SCL. It was Elliot who had to go like 30 million kilometers from I'm guessing from Hurston to Crusader where the mission spawned. So he just ramped up the speed and just went, and then it was there in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So you can so there you can tell that there is no actual loading screen. So you could, if you wanted to, just go there.
Yes, but
years.
Yeah, things load very quickly, but it's still a loading screen. Even though if it takes 2 seconds to load it, it's
still a loading screen. And there's definitely stuff you can do and stuff like that. But the point being is that 4.0 and Pyro have been connected at the hip. Pyro doesn't need server meshing, but they would have added Pyro, or they'd have been working on Pyro much more in earnest if that was the case a long time ago. So when we're talking about Pyro, we're talking about 4.0. So I wanted to kind of set that up already. So we've been waiting at least for longer than this, but at very, very if you're trying to be generous, when CIG started to really talk about serious, Pyro coming out soon sort of thing, was around 2019 CitizenCon. And so it's been about 4 years that CitizenCon has been focused on Pyro. Before that, they, talking about ArcCorp and Microtech and Crusader, like all of the, basically finishing up Stanton. Was a huge focus of CitizenCons, and CitizenCon tends to be that sort of lens that CIG is viewing the next year in, trying to show people where they want to go for the next year. And as of 2019, that stopped being Stanton and started being Pyro. So Pyro has definitely been their focus for a bit. And again, it's been 4 years. So at the very beginning, we're talking about 4.0 and Pyro. So with that being said, I'm going to start with you, Darj, because you're the last person to introduce yourself. What are your current thoughts about Pyro, just in general?
Geez, that's a loaded question. Fine, it's fine. Like the actual existence of Pyro, is that what you're talking about? Sure, it's gonna have a lot of people in there that I don't want to deal with, so because I'm shit at PvP, y'all. Okay. And a lot of PvP is gonna be happening in Pyro just because there's not gonna be any police there. So yeah. How
about thoughts on Pyro's development currently?
Oh, Pyro's development. Oh, geez. I get. Where are we at? Where do you think we are at the development with Pyro? I believe almost all of it is done. Other than and CIG has probably at many stages believed that they're done with everything they wanted to do for the initial release of Pyro. Yeah, and then they realized, oh shit, we have another 6 months that Pyro's that server mission is going to be delayed. I guess we get to do more stuff in Pyro, and then they created the first volumetric clouds for Pyro, and then they're creating the huge underground facilities for Pyro, and they're probably going to create the first fauna, like actual fauna in Pyro, before they push it to Stanton. It is just like with ships. The longer it takes, the better it's going to be, right?
Mm-hmm. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, but at one point you gotta make it. You gotta release it. You gotta push the button. Yeah. But I don't believe it's the actual development of Pyro that is holding us up. It is still and always will be server meshing.
Okay.
I hope in this quarter, on the road to CitizenCon, we will have a couple of ISCs that will handle server meshing. I hope they do, and they don't just leave it for CitizenCon, because they did that last year.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but last year was also not a live CitizenCon.
It wasn't, no.
So, and it's not. This is the first 2-day live CitizenCon, which we'll have to talk about.
Yeah, what about that? Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Pyro. I don't think I'll live in Pyro. I'll definitely visit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'll be moving to Pyro. There'll be a lot of nice things there, but Pyro itself, I don't think is going to be that groundbreaking. It'll be just a lot of not new things, but same things in a different skin.
Yeah,
like you're
jumping ahead a
little
with
bit, yellow,
grass
instead of green. Yay!
Mm-hmm. All right,
we don't even have a planet with green grass. We got a planet with brown grass.
That's true. Oh no,
there's green grass on Microtech in some places.
Where there's no snow.
Or there's
the equator at very specific locations. Nick, your thoughts, your feelings about where the development currently is.
Where the development currently is, I feel like when 4.0 hits and we got Pyro and we got server meshing like 1.0 like test runs coming out, it's gonna feel no different.
Okay.
Unless CIG includes a new star map, changes to the mission system, changes to so many gameplay systems, I'm concerned that if 4.0 is only Pyro and server meshing and doesn't touch on any of these other items like the star map and the missions and contract systems, then it's going to feel the exact same as it is right now, and everyone's just going to play it, look sightsee for a few months, and then be like, okay, I'm bored.
Yeah.
And
we need FPS scanning badly. As a part of the new UI for the star map and the radar and the UI visor, the helmet visor and everything. So yeah, agree.
Because with Pyro, it's only going to be adding a ruin station and a lot of planets that are now habitable with habs on it. So you can go around visiting all these local habs and stuff. But outside of that, well, what do we do in it? Like, the resources are slim to none. Even if you're going to be PvPing, okay, you can respawn at Ruin Station and then travel the massive system of Pyro to get back into PvP. Crusader is still going to be the system for people who are going to want to PvP at, because that's just where hospitals and, are the supplies are at. People aren't going to want to be continuously going to Ruin Station except to sightsee, or if they really want to play a hardcore pirate. I mean, it's I think I'm very concerned that unless they do major gameplay changes with 4.0, it's going to get stale very quickly.
Okay. All right. So I'll ask the next question then, which is just straight up, do you think CIG can still do Pyro? Nick, do you think that Pyro is still on the table? Server meshing and Pyro is still something they can do?
I think they can. The Pyro's already technically kind of done. I think there's no problem with them doing Pyro. I think it's the server meshing that's the big question, where we still don't know. We haven't seen any like technical demos of server meshing working. They probably might be holding that for CitizenCon. Who knows? Yeah. But until we can see and discuss with CIG where they're at with server meshing, I'm like, that's a technical hurdle that like no game has accomplished or tackled. So can CIG do it? We have to wait and see.
That's not true though. There has been server meshing in some MMOs out there, not to the same sort of complexity and technical requirements that Star Citizen requires, but server meshing as a concept has been implemented. CIG isn't treading new technical grounds. They're not creating anything new per se. These are concepts that have been established before, but combining them all in Star Citizen's code base is the challenge. Yeah, because comparatively, all those other games have been quite simple. Fun to play, probably, sure, but
none of those games
don't have ships with tens of thousands of entities,
and with persistence on all those entities.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. The fact that they're just keeping server meshing development there to the chest and just releasing like a 20-30 minute video at CitizenCon every year, that gets to me as well. I would prefer them have at least one update per quarter.
Okay.
Even if there's no major change, like, I would still love to hear from them that they're actually working on it, what their current issues are, how they're figuring about tackling them, what have they tried and failed at. That sort of information I would love to know.
That is, I agree too. The information I would like to hear when the update's on, like, especially anything that's technical that you can't really visualize, at least saying where you're blocked at, you're trying to solve this problem, unable to solve it right now due to these technical issues. We're working out solutions for that down the road, or right now we're working on solutions that we have to still try and implement and test. But just a small little update tidbit like that, just to kind of get an idea of where these technical hurdles are in the development would be great. And then save the big showing and, reveal of this technical hurdles actually working at CitizenCon.
There hasn't been much in the monthly reports either, has there? About server meshing itself.
I will say there is one concerning reveal, which was that there seemed to have been some sort of communication issue between the server meshing team and the engine team. And so they folded part of the server meshing team into the engine team to try to fix that communication problem.
When was that?
This was in June of the June monthly report.
Okay.
In June, so that's recently.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It could also be that it could be that they pulled them together because they're getting closer and they needed to have more immediate feedback. It could be that there was a breakdown of communications. There was just some communication issue between those two teams, and so they folded them into the same team. That's pretty much all we got. That's probably the most information we got about server meshing.
Yeah. Since last year's CitizenCon, yeah.
Yep. But also at the start of the year, they had that big, massive, powwow of everyone coming together and being like, we're all on this together. We're all on server meshing together. And then for it to later be in June, be like, we had a communication breakdown. Like, hold up.
Yeah.
Wasn't that what that whole meeting at the start of the year was to avoid? And you're running into that 6 months. What?
Yeah.
It could definitely be a bad thing then that they dealt with in June. And maybe now it's a good thing. But it could also be a bad thing, and now we're up in the air, just waiting to see what happens at CitizenCon. Was it a good thing or a bad thing, or is this a terrible thing? I don't know I don't know how I should view this. Where is server meshing?
Yeah, and I will also
it was more transparent.
They're so transparent you can see right through them. You just can't see them.
they're just the emperor has no clothes. Is that what you're trying to say?
Chris Roberts has no devs.
To put this into context as well, because I think this is also important to context. That compare this to PES last year. PES, as of this time last year, we'd already had a letter from the chairman with Chris Roberts talking about how he'd worked with the PES team and they had done an experiment and showed the experiment at Montreal of them, crashing a server and then bringing it back up from boot as the first version of PES. And that was where he was like, okay, so this, now that we have this done, it's going to take us a while to implement it. Once we implement it, it may take, several months before we can get that smoothed out, and then it'll be easier for us to do server meshing, but it may also still take several months for that to be smoothed out. And generally speaking, that kind of communication was great because we knew that it was finished, it was added to the game branch, so the developers could start working on it by September. So even though we had been waiting effectively for PES since August or June of last year, and it finally came out in March of the next year, it was at least a communication that we knew what we had planned ahead of time. At this point, we have no information since that ISC in January. We've had nothing other than snippets in the monthly report. So
yeah, but server meshing itself is the huge overarching technology that PES is a part of. Mm-hmm. So maybe there is another constituent part that is the same sort of complexity and size of PES that they're working on right now that is still also part of server meshing.
Yeah.
As the big solution to this huge problem they have. I just hope that I hope at CitizenCon they tell us that they have not changed their minds and gone with another idea or another implementation, like they dropped iCache for what was not
for
the entity graph.
PES, the entity graph,
The entity graph, yeah. So I just hope they still maintain their original and their current vision of how to solve this problem and don't have to drop that and start all over, because they realize that the way they're approaching this solution, it's just not going to work.
If I have to hear we scratched that and started all over again one more time after 10 years of Star Citizen, I think I might be done at that point. I think I might just be done at that point.
I do think that's still a fear. It's one of my fears, because the last time they did that with PES, with iCache to PES, they did the same thing where they just didn't talk. They just shut up. The difference is that, like, and they did this with AI too, where they threw out the AI system. They didn't really throw it out. They
kind of just brought it back to its base and and like they didn't completely tear it down. They just brought it back down on its foundation, being like, we made spaghetti code here. We need to get this fixed up and better and working better.
This doesn't work for our long-term plans, and it doesn't work in terms of the way we want to think now. So we gotta take it back to the basics and then figure out how to build.
I have personal experience having to steer an entire game studio around on an Unreal Engine 4 project on that. Back when I used to be a game dev, we ran into an issue where one programmer was doing one thing. They brought it to me, and they just spaghetti code everything. And then it was just like, I go to do one thing, and it's like, okay, I can't do that. I'll go try to do the other thing. I can't do that. And I'm just following the code all the way down to, it's like, oh, this is all bad, really bad. So I had to bring it up to the CEO and being like, this is bad.
Yeah.
And I had to bring in everyone into a meeting and being like, this is what this is. Not good. This is what we need everyone to do, so it is good. And I had to be very political because the person who made the mistakes was sitting right in front of me and knew it was it. So I was like, this is not good. Not good. So I understand.
How many people were at that company?
It's all interns, so technically no one.
Okay.
Right. Well, so it's if one person's work at a project of that size versus one person's work, or maybe a couple of people's work at a project of CIG size, it may not have to devolve into like, we're cutting it at the base and starting all over again. The issue, I believe, with iCache wasn't spaghettification of the code. It was more like the closer they got to finishing it, the closer they got to realizing that the base idea, the concept of it, wasn't good enough. It didn't function efficiently enough, which is why they went with the entity graph, because graph stuff for databases is far more efficient than just your regular like MySQL database, which is like cell-based or whatever.
And that was similar to what with the AI stuff. It was more of a. I think it is what Nick's saying. So what Nick's saying is it was built in a way that didn't match with what they actually had to do. So as a result, it like in his project in that case, it was like it doesn't do what we want it to do. So we have to go back to the basics and redo everything because the code just isn't written as flexible as it needs to be, and it's going to cause problems.
Yeah, it's not a free roll rate. It's not a full rewrite. It's more like taking what you have and reorganizing it in a way that works with the functionality you want.
Yeah, and I think that's what happened with the AI. It was like the AI, they needed it to be more modular. They needed to think about it in terms of how are they going to split these AI up? How are they going to attack the player? What are their roles are going to be? Which is up to that point.
Where subsumption came from, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because like subsumption worked, and they still have subsumption, and all of the AI is still based off of subsumption. But the AI that we have like in game right now, in Star Citizen, that's the old AI. That's the old system, which is like everything in that system that we see now is going to be thrown out and changed when the new AI system comes in, which is being developed mostly for Squadron, but it's built with that flexibility in mind. But that's the thing. It's like that's one of those things that I'm concerned about, and I think we all have that concern about, is that maybe somewhere along the line, maybe in June, they had that conversation where they sat there and went, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to scale the way we need to. We need to start rethinking how we write this or how we do it, which sucks. But because CIG doesn't like to talk about bad things, we end up with no information, and we're just stuck in a void of knowing nothing. And
CIG do bad things? No, never. They can't.
CIG perfect.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
Well, the question was about can they do Pyro?
Yeah.
Pyro,
yes, but it's yeah.
It's a yeah for me. They'll do it. Just how much of my patience will be tested waiting for it? That's the big question.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next question, and I'll start with you on this there, Darj, as well, which is, if Pyro is still on the table, what should people expect with version 1 of Pyro? Say 4.0 is coming out. What kind of game will Star Citizen look like? Will it be a completely different experience? Will Pyro bring a bunch of new features and tech beyond just server meshing in Pyro, or is it just going to be like whatever Star Citizen is at the time?
I feel
setting expectations. If you're talking to somebody who is like looking at 4.0,
I feel like mechanically it won't change much unless, like Nick said, they don't bring in the new UI for the visor and the star map and the FPS scanning and stuff like that. Those are things that are going to change the game completely, regardless of whether Pyro is in or not. But Pyro, I believe, with its lawless gangs, it's going to be pretty much the same as Stanton. Just the only reason why security firms are lawful is because we've agreed for that, and they don't fight each other. That's the only difference between security firms and organizations in Stanton versus outlaw gangs in Pyro. They'll still stop you, and they'll still scan you, and they'll still say, we don't like what you're doing, so we're gonna board you or we're gonna attack you right now. And logically, it makes sense for them to do that, to use the same tech with a different coat of paint on it. But yeah, just because it's in Pyro and it's supposed to be lawless, that's not going to change. What will change is refactoring the gameplay, and that's potentially coming in before Pyro.
Okay. Nick, what should people expect when Pyro comes out?
I would expect nothing other than the current experience we have now with new planets. Okay. That's kind of where my expectations are at right now.
So you don't think we're going
to UGFs?
You don't think do you not think we're going to see like new additions to the game between now and 4.0?
I mean, we're going to see. I know we're going to see the master modes come in and the flight mode changes. We don't know if that actually includes the, or at least I'm not familiar if it actually includes the control surfaces part of it. Or if it's just the master modes part.
According to
that's separate, but both of those could be in before Pyro.
Yeah, but there's technically the control surfaces are done. At least according to the last monthly reports. It may have just been for AI, but it seemed like it was because they created a completely different mode for how the ships handle in atmospheres more like planes. That could again just be an AI thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm really concerned on the lack of gameplay updates not being sufficient enough to make it feel any more different of an experience than it is now. That's my main concern is if I just go into Pyro and it's just kind of the same Mobiglass, same things I'm experiencing right now with just a new planets to go explore, okay, I can go talk to those Ninetales, but reputation's kind of the same as it is right now, then I'm just going to be playing the same experience, looking at a different coat of paint, and I'm not looking for that.
Yep. Well, according to the roadmap, the player interaction experience T2 visor, HUD, and helmet is slated to be finished mid-October.
Okay. Then again, that is just the current progress on it.
Yeah.
That can't
That's
extend.
just the current estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the current estimate of the current, not sprint even, the current amount of work that they're working on. That doesn't mean
map and radar system rework also ends at the same time. So I don't know whether that is because ever since the new star map was introduced, we don't know whether that is the end of the projected deliverable development or if that is just the end of where the roadmap ends. Because it just ends on the same way. I talked to Jake about it for a while, and he says, "Yep, they want to do it, but currently there's just no developers. They don't have the resources to. They have the progress tracker 1.0 running. It's stable. They can fill it in whenever they want, but new development will just have to wait." So hopefully mid-October for both of those. Which is going to change missions a lot, especially because Elliot. That is one of the things that Elliot mentioned in was it this week or previous week? That one of the systems with which you can find out where your bounty is will have to be done via FPS scanning, but because because that doesn't exist yet, the module that he used was basically just what if you're close enough to the person or not.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting to know because and we know that FPS scanning is being built specifically right now for Squadron, which and with at least Chris Roberts' attention, he did say at one point that his goal is to get, in that letter from the chairman, his goal is to get bounty hunting out before Pyro comes out. And we have seen development on Pyro, so.
But yeah, we have seen
or on Pyro, on bounty hunting. So
yeah, we've seen a lot of updates on bounty hunting and a lot of things added on the progress tracker for bounty hunting. So they're definitely doing a push for bounty hunting. Just when's it coming?
When we get the FPS scanning and the new star map, because bounty hunting relies on using the star map and the scanning to look for clues where your bounty is. So you don't have just, oh, look, he's over there, exactly 30,722,512 kilometers away. But I'll just say the map and radar system rework has been going on, will have been going on
3 years.
When it ends in October, 133 weeks. That is
52 weeks in a year, right?
That's
52 in a year.
52 weeks in a year. So 156 would be 3 years. So that's 19 weeks. I mean, 2 years and 7 months and a half.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense about right.
Yep. That is how long not only we've been asking for a new star map and radar, that is how long they've confirmed they've been working on it.
Wow.
And it's not just a new coat of paint over it. It's completely
it's a whole new car, and I want to drive it.
We all want to drive it.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
And everything they've shown so far has been other than, I believe, the Asieto map. That's also been scrapped. I believe only the Idris interior map they showed that is procedurally generated from an actual model of a ship with just a bunch of shaders thrown at it. That I believe that is the only thing that's they have not confirmed that it is not old new but is new.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes, we're getting into the weird CIG-isms, which I can't quite like the
wobbly CIG-isms stuff.
Yeah, the way they speak is weird because it's like they're so, the Squad 42 team is like 4 versions ahead of everybody else, and so some people are still using they've built and discarded things like 3 times before they even talk to us about them. So, all right, well, I think it's going to kind of. I'll ask the final question before we get into the question and answers. All right, final question. I'll start with you on this one, Nick. Okay. Bold cards on the table. When's 4.0 and Pyro coming out?
4.0 and Pyro coming? Okay, I'll do my I'll see March of next year.
Ooh, okay. Darsh.
That's a good bet. Yeah, but I have a proven record of being way wrong about when things.
I have whiskey to prove it.
Yep. Jeez Christ. I'm just gonna go May then.
May?
April for PTU, May for live, or whatever it is. Yeah, that'd be actually cool. Invictus and Pyro.
Nah, they wouldn't
work.
They wouldn't do it in Pyro because that doesn't really work. But Pyro will be there, you know.
Xenothreat incursion of Invictus from Pyro.
Not both again. No. No. PTSD.
I'm going to say I'm going to do a range. So it's okay for y'all if you want to extend your range. I think the earliest we would see it is March, but I would and the latest we'd see it is the end of next year. But I do think that we'll see it'll probably the fall patch, because the fall patch is always like the big patch.
CitizenCon 2024. Road to Pyro.
The gates of Pyro, you know. But I would say to split the difference, I would say I'm with you. Like I think we'll probably be around Invictus. I still have hope that it'll be early next year because there's just so many things that they've been actively working on, and I think it's always important to keep this into context with people. Is that when CIG is working on something, they tell you, they don't shut up about it. Except there are some exceptions when it's so mind-numbingly boring that nobody finds it interesting. So like,
and then they think it's so mind-numbingly boring, like server meshing, but we want to know.
Yeah,
I am also curious that because I know CIG doesn't usually shut up about some things that are working on. I wonder that maybe this year they are, because they got a physical CitizenCon. So maybe now, because of that physical CitizenCon, they are being kind of not told but suggested to just shush. I mean, we've seen how we've seen Jared's reactions to, like, you know, the Fury and the X1 being mentioned on it, that he's just like, shut up.
Yeah.
Well, to those reactions. So I'm kind of curious if, like, you know, if maybe they are staying quiet and are keeping things close to the chest
intentionally
for CitizenCon, and are now being told to not talk about it.
It's important to note that things also do get canceled, even right up to the moment with CitizenCon. 2016 CitizenCon was supposed to have something around Squadron 42, but it got canceled like at the last minute, at least according to CIG. And so there are things that can get almost up to the letter, almost up to the day of the event, and then just get pulled back because of things. So it could be that we're not hearing anything because they're planning on a panel about it, but they haven't confirmed that panel is going to exist or not, to make sure those devs can like get hotel rooms, get flights, are willing to be there if they should be there, because they may have to be working on, you know, actually the job that they're being paid for, so like they may not want to pull them out there. So there's a lot of different factors, and I think when we start seeing the panel announcements, which should be next month, was when we'll start to know more about it, though. So.
Can I have a question, though?
Sure.
Do you think, like, when 4.0 finally hits with server meshing and Pyro, do you think that we'll also see potentially more star systems attached that I haven't talked about? Because we kind of know that Nyx is also already done, because it's quite barren.
Nyx is the only one I could see that they might just sneak in there and just be like just a casual drop of like, oh yeah, I know some Nyx, because you already have the Levski system, and if I could see that Nyx system with how small it is, and if the Levski assets already kind of existing, that if Pyro's already done, why not just have devs go work on Nyx system? I mean, with the assets that are already there. I mean,
they have already started working on some of the planets and asteroids for Nyx. They've talked about that in the past and shown that off, and that was years ago. We also know that CIG kind of does this stop-start thing with Pyro. So like the planets of Pyro have been finished multiple times in development, and they constantly add more stuff. And I think what they've even said at one point that they've stopped development on certain planets, certain parts of Pyro, until they can get gameplay and other aspects there, so they can figure out what's going to actually be there. And then they'll come back and work on it afterwards. It's not something like they have to do to completion. They can stop it, and it's often things like placements of points of interest, or how the ground scatter works, and it's those sorts of questions. So
Yeah. But also, yeah, like Steve the Dancer says, Levski needs rework. Levski itself, I would say, doesn't need rework because plopping the landing zone onto an asteroid or an asteroid on a planetoid, Delamar, that is updated to the way planets work and landing zones and containers work now is going to solve a lot of the lag that was present at Levski, because you had to have the entire thing loaded, and that's what was causing the issues.
Yeah, we didn't have object container streaming and server object container streaming with Levski when that was in. That was just you were loading in all of Levski. That's why it was Legski.
Yeah, and it wasn't optimized. They also didn't stop working on it. Like they showed off pictures of them working on the medical station for Levski when they were updating all the other medical stations. So it's definitely been something that's been finished.
I would say you could expect some of the same sort of performance as you can with at Grimhex right now.
Yeah. And unlike say Olisar, which is an old asset, and it just does not support current gameplay at all. Like Levski supports all the current gameplay, and they already have the art assets there. And if they're doing server meshing, by the time you get server meshing in, you won't have to worry about Lagski as much, because it's only a portion of the actual server is dedicated to Levski, and it's only one landing zone out of the entire system. There is no other landing zone. So
yeah, if we get to server meshing, so we have a dedicated server just for. Is there anything else in Nyx other than Levski on Delamar?
There are planets which are all barren, and moons which are all barren. And all of those are controlled by various other political groups, like political splinter groups. But the one thing I don't think we will see with Levski, with Nyx, which is its whole thing, because Nyx is the goddess of the darkness or the night, is that it's at the edge of a dark nebula. So like this is like just on the outside of the system is where like the dark nebula ends, and so like Levski's inside a cloud. Which messes with sensors and sight and stuff like that. So they
like the coil.
It's kind of like the coil, yeah. So they'd have to also have to do do the gas, and they'd also have to do like the sensor messing up stuff. There's a couple of other like specific
the gas
features.
I believe they can do, because the gas clouds at OM points are huge.
Yeah,
like you have the child ones are already big, but the parent ones are amazingly. They're easily bigger than Delamar was, so they'd have no issue just plopping like a black thing there.
Because we already have space stations inside gas clouds. I mean, throwing in Levski, which is technically going to be sort of like a station just on an giant asteroid. I think it's going to be no different than that. I mean,
I personally don't think we're going to see Nyx next year. I don't think we'll see. We might see it next year, but I don't think we'll see it the same time as Pyro, because I think they've stopped working on the Nyx planets while we focus on Pyro and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we can see it in like a 4.1, 4.2, a 4.x patch. I think that's when they're going to release Nyx and the other systems, because once 4.0 comes in and we have jump gates, we have server meshing working, then it's technically smooth sailing to just add a jump point and connect a server meshing node to the next system when that's done, and then daisy chain it all along.
It would make sense that for the initial release they would have just one connection, so they can stress that. So they have as many data points on a single data set.
Yeah, between two servers.
So for maybe one or two patches they can optimize and make the one existing connection run better before they start opening up more of them. Yeah.
All right, we're getting into questions and answers stuff, so we'll go on this. But I will also because this is a persistent rumor and a persistent thing that people have been saying. There is no confirmation that, and I said this earlier, that Pyro doesn't need server meshing. They have never said that. The one thing that we know that they've said is that Pyro and the jump points and server meshing are two separate problems. That doesn't mean they're not the same. That they're not the same. They don't need each other, because last we've heard that they definitely needed both of them. And
maybe not needed, but
it's required.
It's not. Pyro as a star system does not need server meshing to exist. It can exist on its own on a separate server. But what they want to do is
there's no point
for players to get to Pyro is via jump points and server meshing. They don't want to just add another menu option in the universe launcher, so you instead of they have Stanton. That's weird though, because you choose Stanton and then you choose.
That's the reason why that is for future though. When you first log into the game, you can choose where you want to launch.
I'm gonna be a Terra boy.
Yeah.
But yes, it's not that technically it needs it, but from the player experience, they want the only way to get to Pyro through a jump point. That is why 4.0 and server meshing and jump points and Pyro are all together.
Yeah, and the point is that it would take CIG time to put the process of making it a drop-down menu. All of that process would take time and effort on the team's part. It's just not as simple as
Control A delete when server meshing is in.
Yeah,
because they don't want to do that. Yeah,
especially when they're already working.
You're doing the work twice. You're doing the work twice at that point for no reason.
Yeah. So like, there's and they've explained that many times before. But yeah, I just wanted to clear that up there, because that has come up in the chat a couple of times now. It'd be like they don't need to do server meshing for Pyro. It's like technically they don't, but they do if they will, because they have to. Like. Yeah. All right. With that being said, thank you for watching. Thank you to Darj and HeyItsNick. Make sure you check them out on their social medias and their own content. We're just gonna take a quick 5-minute break, and when we come back, we'll be taking up questions. So thank you all again.
Oh, thank fuck! I could go take a piss.
Yeah, that's the point. Be right back.
Oh, I just need a stretch.
Don't go anywhere, chat.
Stretching.
You didn't miss the show. You just missed the first part there, Baston.
Q&A's next. Don't worry, guys. I'm just stretching. Oh, how's everyone doing? Well, that was a loud door slam. I heard that from here. Are the sound effects working? Darn it. All right. Delta Loader! I did it for you guys. How about that? Weapons free, y'all. Zoidberg. Woo! Distressed bacon. Nope, it's not the same. I'm trying, guys. Well, look, it's the only Javin I'll be able to afford in chat. So, chat, how many ship emotes do you guys have? Let's see your ship emotes.
All right, I'm back.
Chat showing their ship emotes.
Yeah, they're showing their ships. That's unsolicited ship pics.
Fucking ship posters.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to do the sound effects for them because your sound effects were off. So then they're like, "No, it just doesn't stop, please." So I'm like, okay, well, show me your shit.
McFly, I'm pilot.
Yeah.
This shit, I'm out.
Hapita, that's the whole point. Like the reason why 4.0 is Pyro, the Pyro patch, is because it's their first implementation of server meshing, and they want to make sure they have the server meshing functioning between two game servers to make it worthwhile. Which means also the process of jump points and stuff like that, because they didn't fully know how the technical aspects. They had theories, but they didn't have the full technical aspects, which is what this whole process is. Which again, in theory, as Nick said, once you have that out, it will be smoother sailing. But in practice, we know what happens when you put new tech into Star Citizen. It breaks everything for 6 months. Yeah, so. Yep.
Right. And that is going to be completely different from static server meshing within the system, and completely different from dynamic server meshing within the system.
Yep.
Yeah, both of those are going to be as much of a hurdle to overcome as this first one is.
Yeah. Each step is going to be like, Pyro, and like think of all the data, the shards, and the persistence that any streaming are saving just for like Stanton, and then it's got to also do it for Pyro. So then when you bring in additional, it's going to be a good thing for them to even if they had everything ready, all the systems, like all 100 star systems ready to go out the gate now, they'd still ideally like release it time over time, like one or two at a time, so that they can actually load balance and get all the data. Because you can just add, like, you can go from 2 to 5 and then be like, well, all the data and data graphs and persistence is just breaking now because we added that extra system to it. So
yeah,
it's good. They're going to have to do a lot of like just tiptoeing to the next update, but it should be smoother tiptoeing and not tiptoe trip fall down the stairs. Oh, fuck, redo it.
It's a tiptoe. Chat. I know I'm on the intro screen, or I'm just. This is kind of separate from this. We'll move to the other screen here shortly, but it's kind of more like 318 was tiptoe, trip, smash your face along the wall, then leave a streak of blood down the side. Server meshing should be a tiptoe, trip, and smack your head a little bit and rub your head and keep moving. Like, it should be less problematic, but you never know. So, all right, let's get back here. Welcome back. This is the question and answer session with Darj and Nick. Kind of just straight into it. Let's go straight into the questions. Steve That Answer asks, when do you think ship tractor beams will come to the game? Darj, your thoughts?
Kind of guessing 321 at this point, because 320 has the Hull C.
I was going to say 321.
Yes.
And it's been confirmed, I believe, that they're not coming yet with Hull C.
And we do know that they're done. The tractor beams are pretty much done.
Well, I guess they're not.
Well, they're not done for implementation for 320, but they're finished to the point where they can.
Could be 320.1, but
I'm thinking 321.
Yeah, 321.
I don't think they've confirmed if it's a 321 or 4.0. I don't know.
They're not on the roadmap, so
nothing's on the roadmap. So I'm gonna just assume that 4.0 is going like shit, and it's gonna be 321.
Yep, I'd almost guarantee a 321, and I agree. I think 321. So, just because of the progress that they've done on it and a lot of the updates and stuff like talking about, they basically said that the work is done.
Because it's not just putting a much more powerful tractor beam on a ship. It's hooking it up to a remote station inside a ship, and then
Having the HUD aspects for
piping
it.
the control, the HUD, yeah, exactly. Well, they'll probably do it with a remote view, like the remote turret.
Yeah, but they still have to build a new UI for it out of building blocks, and they'll have to tweak it, and they also have to.
And then they'll have to port that UI to the multi-tool, and to the big handheld one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the functionality is there. They can make it work. It's now all of the details of making it a game asset rather than just something that can be function in game.
In a vacuum,
Also, a 321 would definitely put in 4.0 toward March.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm aiming for 321. So that would make my guess a lot more accurate.
Yep.
You want to put money on it?
No. I'll put a drink on it.
No.
I will put a drink on it, but I'm not putting down anything for a Star Citizen time estimate.
Nick, I'll ask you this question then. Next question from Access, who asks, do you believe Pyro will be the first silver pass system, or at least bronze? I don't know what that means.
They're probably referring to like a gold. Gold to something going gold. So I think silver would be like beta.
They have gold pass on ships. That basically means that
I think that's what they mean. So a silver would be like a beta, bronze would be like an alpha, but no, it's still going to stay in an alpha state for quite a bit. I think we'll be getting, around 4.3. I think once the 4.0 patch cycle matures, we'll get closer to a beta state, which would be like a silver state in their thought process. But until we see for the 4.0 branch mature, we don't know.
Yeah. I will also say that we're going to see a one drop. It'll be a one drop. All of the planets and moons and points of interest will drop with Pyro when it comes in. But it may not be the final version of Pyro we get. They'll probably have different new things they'll add over time, change some of the points of interest, just like they do with Station all the time.
There's still a lot of things that are missing from the planet generation. Like they don't have lava fields. They kind of do have lava fields, but they don't have they have the shaders on them, but not the functionality or something like that. Then there is actual dynamic weather. That is also going to have to be part of that. What else? Okay, so what else could potentially like a big thing be that planets are missing?
Oceans.
Other than
they need to fix up oceans and currents.
There's been a lot of talk about water shaders. So
yeah, they've been talking about water shaders and changing things, but like bigger rivers, ponds, lakes,
being able to swim in them. I mean, that's missing.
So,
yeah, and potentially the ability to fly a ship underwater. Because they're starships and they're designed for atmospheric pressures
underwater environments as well.
Well, no, we don't need a submarine accident, okay?
But I think
it's not me to go that far.
When it comes to gold standard of planets, I believe that's only going to happen with dynamic weather, and we're definitely not getting that in Pyro.
No, not yet. I mean, it's definitely they're definitely working.
Not with the first iteration of Pyro, but
yeah. All right, next question comes from Steve the Dancer, and I'll answer this question first, and then I'll toss it over to Darj. What do you think CIG will release for CitizenCon? I think they'll release 320 at CitizenCon, or 320 or 320.1.
NDA pass.
All right, Darj actually works with JRDF, and JRDF does traditionally do stuff for them. So, Nick, what do you think?
Like, what are they going to release and show at CitizenCon?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think there'll be anything that crazy. I don't think there's going to be like a surprise patch drop or anything. I would. Yeah, because 320's got to be coming out soon to the PTU ish. So I could see it being pushed to live maybe. But outside of that, I wouldn't expect it. I mean, 320, we haven't even really heard much on how it's going on in like Evocati. It's in Evocati. It hasn't reached Wave 1 PTU. It's almost September, and CitizenCon's like a month and 10 days away from in a week. So I don't see. I see 320 maybe making out.
I think it's a bit more, but yeah.
I see 320 maybe making it out, but I don't see it. I don't see CIG doing anything like special for it. I think it might be pushed to like Open PTU or to Wave or Live, but I don't think they're going to do any big reveal on it. Maybe just a casual announcement on stage that hey, 320 is live or in Open PTU. But I don't think it's going to be anything crazy.
I think you're right in that one because they've done that in the past, and you know. I will say that most people have been saying 320 is going to come out after CitizenCon. People are like, but it's been in PTU testing. It's been all this. It's like, no, it's still coming out. And now, if you look at it right now, I don't even think it's in full Evocati yet. I don't think it's been confirmed as full Evocati yet. So, like, they've done tests in it for like different like Arena Commander stuff. I don't think they've done the full Evocati. So if there's not full Evocati, and it's the end of August, like, it takes a couple weeks for it to get out.
Well, I'm Evocati, and there's a different NDA I'm gonna break if I say anything.
Yeah, he's got all the NDAs. This is why I would not join Evocati because I don't have an NDA.
Yeah. Next question comes from.
But I get to play with all the new stuff.
All the broken new stuff.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Sure. If you are, I'm not.
I
want the new shiny, even when it's not shiny yet.
I like to talk about it, even if it is a pile of crap.
Yeah. Steve the Dancer also asks, do you feel that there might be problems with CitizenCon with Hurricane Hillary hitting the area 1 month before the event? For those of you who don't know, there is a hurricane that's bearing down on Southern California right now called Hurricane Hillary. So,
that's going up north.
Yeah,
up the coast. Yeah.
And it's and like they're not designed for hurricanes, so they don't know how to deal with it.
How far inland is it?
I don't know. But it's okay. So chat's saying it's not going to affect SoCal. Last I heard is that it was still planning on hitting like LA, but you know. So this is 15 miles inland. Okay. So
yeah, but I don't know about hurricanes. Is 15 miles like
a lot? Yeah.
No. When it reached. Yeah. No. I mean, I'm just saying, but it starts changing when it hits land. So
it starts losing its power.
Is 15 miles enough for it to lose a lot of its power, or is it still going full bore?
I think that could still go full bore around 15 miles. I think you'd have to go a few hundred to 1,000 in before you lose power.
It depends on the size and category of the hurricane too. So
that too.
Like a category 1 isn't going to do the same as a category 5.
Like I'm in Southern Ontario, and even I remember a time where we even had a hurricane make its way up here and get downgraded just to a tropical storm before hitting us. And like we're in the land a little quite far. So
yeah,
but the Great Lakes also gave it some power too. So
and I remember when Katrina hit New Orleans. I was living in East Tennessee at the time, and like it destroyed trees. That thing destroyed trees because it was a tropical storm when it hit that far north inland. So it really depends on the severity of it. So, but if chat's saying it's not going to affect, it probably won't. So it's hard to tell. It's only a category 2, so it's that's not much. Like. Ash Hole asks, do you think once Pyro comes in and we have engineering gameplay, that the breakdowns will be random or based on ship components and manufacturer? Nick, what do you think?
I think the components and systems for engineering gameplay are going to be just like the components and systems we have now. There'll be different brands, different tiers of them, and different qualities amongst those tiers and grades. So I think it'll be different depending on which components you do. At least I like to see that depth in it. So maybe you can get like components, like competitive components versus military spec components. Some that are better to distortion and all that. Kind of the same way we have all our components now, just sub-components. So I'd like to see, I'm hoping we see that kind of detail to it, but we'll have to wait and see.
Darsh, do you think we're going to see it be random, or do you think it's going to be based off of the chip components and manufacturer?
I believe that my personal conviction is finally going to show to be true, and that Drake ships are just going to start falling out of the sky. Yeah, for default components, of course, because the only way to get to get a Drake chip to be that cheap is to get the worst components. So it'll be up to the players to start upgrading. Yeah, it's not going to. I don't think there'll be like a notion of complete randomness to it, other than where is going to start increasing the frequency at which glitches and errors start popping up. And that has a certain amount of randomness to it, but other than that, no. So the more expensive a component is, like, the more durable it could be, and the longer you can push it before it starts manifesting issues. So yeah, that I believe that's the direction they're going in. It would make sense.
And industrials could be cheap, quick, dirty, and you'll be engineering that all the time because you got the engineering. You got the
industrial.
The industrial one. Yep.
Yeah. I think yeah, it's going to be probably a combination of the both. It'll be random, but it'll be based off of how worn the component is. The more worn it is, the higher the chance it'll like break down. So it's not just pure RNG. It's going to be based off of, like, because the more you use something, the more it'll get wear and tear. And we've seen them do wear and tear passes on just about everything in the game pretty recently, in fact. So it's definitely something they want to add. And with the engineering gameplay coming in, obviously that's part of that push, is because they want to have that whole, like, breakdown and having to clean and maintain and keeping that loop in the game. So, all right. Kavion asks, why does CIG need to wait for server meshing before we can get access to Pyro? Can't they let us play Pyro for a while without it? This is where I'll go into my little spiel we kind of did during the break, which is that because they would have to spend development time to get it set up and rigged.
Look, chat. I said cancel my question. You have to do the internet thing and cancel it.
Okay.
Cancel the question because we answered it.
Yeah, no, I said cancel my question, but I will go over the basic gist, because I actually cut out the break in, like, the podcast form. So, which is it is because it needs to take work. It takes time and effort for them to do that, and it's time and effort they could be focusing on the final product or a somewhat of a final product. So they just don't do that. So that's the basic gist.
They don't even have the manpower to do basic slight updates to the roadmap.
Yeah,
they're not gonna do this just so they can delete the work afterwards.
And I know. The next comment is they have 1,100 employees. Yes, that's the problem. Is that they have 1,100 employees and they're still hiring and they still need help. So
the Manchester office alone is predicted to do 1,000 people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, on their own. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Unknown Guardian, who asks, since Pyro is kind of a big system, Kraken when? No time soon.
Yeah, no time soon.
When they say they started working on it, even if they don't take any breaks like they have with the Polaris and the Band of Merchantmen, is going to take at least 1.5 years for it.
Yeah, I'd say it'd be close to 2 years before they say start working on Kraken and you get the Kraken in game, if there's no interruptions on the team working on it.
Yeah, or if they increase the team, like, sizes too, because we also know that they just opened up the Montreal studio has its own. So, Rendimon asks, wear and tear. So there's maintenance gameplay coming. Yeah, that's been confirmed long ago. Subcomponents are going to be added into components you're going to have to replace frequently, and the fuse system is part of that subcomponent system, which is maintenance is coming with engineering gameplay, which is not coming until we have resource systems in place.
Yeah, not quite recently, but this year I believe they showed off a prototype for the engineering gameplay on ISC with Dan Truffen. So go to my spreadsheet to look that up. It's under core tech or gameplay, one of those two. But just if you do Control F engineering and go all sheets, you'll find it.
You can go to Darjanator.com and find that link there. So.
Oh yeah, because it's there.
It's there.
The last, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of that. So I'm trying to share it.
Yeah. Do it. All right. Demico asks, if they announce Pyro and Squadron 42 at CitizenCon, do you think they will ship the Odin, slip in Odin when Squadron 42 releases? Yeah. But I mean, Odin is going to be a little more complicated than just taking it out of Squadron 42 and throwing it into game. Because Squadron 42 takes place sometime between 2943, I said, or 2945. 2945, 2946. Like 5 or 6 years ago in Star Citizen timeline, and like some unknown time in the future beyond that. So whatever Odin is will probably be different from what it was at the end of Squadron. So, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be immediate. It's not going to be an instantaneous thing. It'll definitely be a patch or two after Squadron releases. So, what do you think, Nick? Do you think we're going to see Odin drop when Squadron 42 releases?
No, because I think all the Squadron 42 stuff's going to have to be converted to Star Citizen, and that's going to take some time, and I don't see that being ready for when Squadron 42 is released.
Yeah. So, again, another example of that is like the factions that exist in Odin for Squadron 42 are probably going to be completely different from the factions we see in game for Star Citizen. So that'd be a complete rework.
All the political turmoil and all the battles and all that stuff is all going to have like consequences that we would need to see played out in Star Citizen. So the factions would be different, leaders would be different. If anyone was killed or killed off, and that might have a memorial there now or something. So who knows? So
I was actually checking where in relation to the existing systems Odin is, and it's actually connected to Nyx.
So, it's got a Nyx.
Yeah, so it could be there is potential for there to come in after Nyx. Yeah,
it's definitely coming in after Nyx.
But Squadron 42 would probably be out before Nyx.
Before Nyx,
yeah. I think Squadron 42 looks like it's ramping up for a release push. So. In development, so I could see that definitely happening, because if be 4.0, then Nyx down the road for like 4.2 or whatever, and then Squadron 42 comes out, and then 4.5 whatever. I don't know what number it's going to get to. It's going to get to high numbers, and then finally they'll they'll add it after Squadron 42, because it's going to need some time to be worked on for Star Citizen.
They'll need to figure out what they want to do with it, the story they want to tell with it.
Yeah, because they'll need to change it. They'll need to age it and potentially, it may actually, if they release it before Squadron 42 is out completely, all the chapters, it may actually contain spoilers to what happens in Squadron 42.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. So. All right, next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, with the ISC showing off munching of salvage, do you think CIG should show more of that stage in development? Personally, yes. I love the
prototypes. Yes.
Yeah. What do you think, Nick?
What was the prototype for what?
Prototype. They showed off munching, how it was very basic.
Oh, in the prototype. Oh, that was my favorite Inside Star Citizen for this entire Inside Star Citizen quiet cycle, was seeing them actually showing prototypes.
Yeah.
This is our vision. It's just gray. It's just white boxes, gray boxes, just a mixed match of stuff right now, just to see how the gameplay is gonna be. And it's like, yes, that's what I want to see. I want to see the gameplay. I want to see gameplay being tested and fleshed out, and see what your vision and what your ideas are going forward. Being like, okay, this isn't what it's going to look like when it's done, but this is the direction we're going with it. And it's just like, yes, show me a direction. I have a compass bearing now.
Yeah.
On the one hand, sure, love to see that, but on the other hand, if there's only now showing stuff that is very early in development, it may also dissuade some people to think like how long is this game still planning to be in development if they're only doing early design and prototyping right now. That I think that is why CIG has kind of shied away from showing early stuff and only showing polished stuff, because they want to make people think Star Citizen, even though it's still in development, it's not really, really early in development, still not going back to the drawing boards for various things.
Yeah. I think it's because I have a very good understanding of what a prototyping stage is in game development that I'm just like, I know how much work is still going to be done, but like, and it's still going to take a long time to build, but just seeing that early implementation, just game devs, just smashing things together and seeing what works before you being like, oh, okay, we got this, like, ball of stuff that looks fun. We'll give it to the devs and actually make something good out of it. I think just seeing that ball of mush being like formed in its first iteration is very good, especially when have an understanding of what the next processes are, which is to go through the gray box, the white box phases, or alpha, beta of internal.
I personally would love to see more. It's just less polished, more in progress stuff, more earlier. Yeah.
And a good example of this is that, because I think the flip side is that it doesn't necessarily track speed of development, because bombs had the same thing. They built bombs, and then they wanted to figure out how the bombs would work. So they did a prototype phase where they just replaced the torpedoes or missiles on planes with bombs, or on the ships with bombs, and then had them launch. So like let them go and see how well they actually fell and stuff like that. And then they found out that worked pretty well, and they just added some UI elements to it.
Yeah, all they had to do was turn off the thrust of a missile, and it's like, oh look, we got a bomb.
Yeah. So like that's an example of like sometimes prototyping is just shows you that you only need a little bit of work and you can just push forwards. And then the munching was more of we have a big problem, we need to kind of figure out how to deal with this with PES. And so there was definitely like that, you could see that process, and I like that process. The idea of like you can see them going, okay, this is going to be a while, versus 6 months.
It's just like we got all these objects now just spawning in when the thing's destroyed. We need now to make the art and animations of that actually happening. Yeah. So you actually see a destroyed 890 that you can actually munch, versus
that
all this
take minutes stuff to spawn in.
Yeah. All right.
Also, I believe the item that the programmer chose to represent the broken up pieces. I believe that is a vent from a Buccaneer.
I love it. Looked great.
Drake ship.
All right. Northern Trooper asks, why is CIG hesitant to license out more merchandise like clothing, luggage, armor, etc.? Because if they license it out to another company, that company is taking a cut of the profits.
It's really to protect their brand and brand identity. That's what it is. They're going to be very selective of anyone who wants to represent their brand, because as soon as they're making a shirt or a helmet, they are now representing the Star Citizen brand. They're now representing CIG. So CIG is going to be very protective of who they give that license to. Even if they can afford it, even if they have the money for it, they need to prove to CIG that they're going to actually represent the brand and company in a way that CIG seems favorable, and in a way that will respect and protect the brand. So
and
it's
that
all
it's
about
a quality product.
Yep.
Good example of this recently. Mr. Beast, the YouTube star, had a entire chain franchise which he lent his name to, called Mr. Beast Burger, and the franchise had been doing some like bad quality assurance. So like burgers were being like served raw, and there were other issues that had happened. And so Mr. Beast sued the company that he had licensed his name to for ruining his brand name. And so like, people are like, Mr. Beast is suing himself. It's like, no, because he was working with another company who was licensing out his name. He was licensing
I'm glad the Mr. Beast Burger in my cities don't have that issue, and they're actually really good smash burgers.
Yeah.
So
I've heard that some are really good and some are really bad. So like it's just it's a franchise problem. So anyways, that's a kind of the one of the reasons why. But I also think that money is definitely a factor as well, because even though they can license out more stuff, they have to trust that person, and also anytime they license it out, they're only getting a fraction of what they pay for. It's the reason why they don't want to go to Steam with Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, because they'd have to pay a fee for putting it on their site. So
yeah, and it's also I'm actually kind of happy that I'm working for a company that's still the only one that's licensed.
Is Heidi not doing the helmets?
she hasn't. Well, she said she has a license, but she hasn't done anything with it yet. So.
Okay. So the only one doing something with a license. So.
Yeah.
Death Trooper 177 asks,
not
do you?
him.
Look, this guy.
I know.
Do you think having a common enemy in the game will have a dramatic change in player interaction and how we play if implemented in Pyro? I don't think we're gonna have like a common enemy in Pyro.
I don't think there will be ever a common enemy in Star Citizen.
No, because no matter how you turn it, there's still gonna be some assholes in the Star Citizen community who will align themselves with the villains.
Yeah,
even the Vanduul.
Even with the Vanduul, with the Bandu, with the Xion, you'll have players who will take their sides. Like there's never going to be the one whole, like, this is bad for everyone. Who knows? Maybe that might be the Karthak down the road. But there's no one, like, it's all just wibbly wobbly. Do what you want. Choose your own adventure storybook time.
But I'm glad that they were all cynical enough that we all went for the same sort of viewpoint on the subject.
Yeah, it's just how it is.
We know humans.
Yeah. I do think, and I think the reality is, and I'm going to be very blunt about this, and I think people may not be happy with the bluntness, but I think people far overestimate the number of PvP players in Star Citizen. It is a vanishingly small community inside Star Citizen. They're just the most active, and like if someone's doing a PvP video on YouTube or doing PvP on Twitch, they're going to get more views, which is going to get more traction. But the number of times I've been PvP'd while streaming, let alone PvP'd off stream, is so small. Like, it just doesn't really happen. Even with me being streaming, people targeting me, it becomes less of a frequent thing unless I actually go out and look for it. So
yeah, it's easy to find if you go out looking for it. Just start shooting at somebody, but like it's not. It's when you're not looking for it, it's kind of just like, oh, it's kind of quiet.
Yeah. So I think the idea that like common enemy would unite players is just like, no, not really. You wouldn't have to. Like people complained about players ruining Xenothreat events in the past. But
Xenothreat is an event that's supposed to be like, unite everyone. Siege of Orison is supposed to be an event that, hey, unite everyone. Everyone go help Orison. And you still have people just attacking players there.
Yeah. But even then, I have had that happen like 3 times in my experience. Yeah. So it's still a very small kind of thing. All right, Steve That Answer asks, it's been 2 years since we heard anything from Tony Z. Will he be speaking at CitizenCon? They have not released the schedule yet. So we don't
want to see another. I'm going to be honest. I don't want to see another Tony Z speak unless we're adding it into 4.0.
Or
don't
gameplay.
Come out and talk about it unless you're adding it into the game. Unless you're talking about adding the economy actually into a patch with a patch number, don't come talk to me about that Tony Z stuff. All I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd be okay with at least showing gameplay, because up to now it's just been the Odin tool and the like that they should, like the actual visualization tool that they use. That's it. Like, don't give me the Odin tool. Give me gameplay. Show me the game. Like that would be acceptable to me if Tony Z was talking with the game.
Show me the Odin like management system for the economy, and then show me a gameplay system, and show me like a player's perspective, and show the quanta like interaction taking place in the server, and then showing it pop up on the player's screen of like, oh, there's a ship there now, and that was that quanta that you saw like flying across the server. Just have like that overlay and just show it working and showing what the player can expect to see, and show what the server is doing behind the scenes.
We still don't have NPC ships delivering cargo and stuff like that, or mining, or
just being active in stations.
That if we start seeing those, if they show those actively working in game, then yes, I would love to see something new by Tony Z.
Yeah,
but yes, just more Odin, like I said. Yeah, no, I'm just repeating what you guys said. No,
if it's another Tony Z head talk, it's just like, nope. I've already listened to all that. I need to see results now.
That's more ISE stuff, not CitizenCon stuff.
It's the same thing that we've talked about, how we're just tired of having Pyro be the front runner for every CitizenCon, because we've seen Pyro just bring it out. Like that's just give. Yeah. Stop talking and just do. Indofro asks, I'm hopeful that Squadron 42 gets closer. As Squadron 42 gets closer, some of the devs they'll be working will move to Star Citizen, and that features in Star Citizen will get added faster. When do you think that might be? So this is the conversation that goes on. I'm going to kind of correct some things. There was a rumor, not even a leak, a rumor that said that the Star Citizen is no longer, CIG is no longer going to work on Star Citizen, and they're exporting all of the work to external teams in China, and which is insane.
Yes.
Based off of how CIG's organized, that would be a drastic organized, because they said once the rumor was like once Squadron 42 was done, it would just be Squadron 42 Part 2, and they wouldn't, and everything else would be exported to China. And it was like,
if they do that, they will actually create a separate studio in China.
Yeah.
Not just outsources to random developers. They would create a
studio.
A studio that is under the CIG umbrella, both economically and corporate.
Yeah. There's been no physical evidence of any of those things, and there's been no confirmation. I've asked straight up, like developers that I know, and in confidence, like, is this the case? And they're like, I've never even heard of a China studio. So, like, if there was, I would have shut up about this rumor. I would just said nothing. But that doesn't jive. So that rumor is a rumor. It's a rumor. There is no evidence for it. It's just what people say on the internet. And I'm gonna come close. I'm gonna teach you a word of wisdom, which may shock and change your entire world of view. People lie on the internet.
Oh my God, no way.
So that's just to get that out there at the very beginning. But at the same time, I don't think we're going to see a huge move over from Squadron 42 to Star Citizen. It's just all the stuff they've been building for Squadron 42 first will start to get implemented in Star Citizen. So, and there's really no reason for the HUD team to be in Squadron, to continue to work for Squadron 42 for Part 2, because they're just building the basic HUDs. They might have a smaller HUD team that's working on some improvements and changes they want to make for Squadron 42 Part 2, or whatever it's going to be called. But I doubt we're going to see the entirety of the UI team working on Squadron 42 continue that way, and not come back for Star Citizen.
Squadron 4, I feel the Squadron 42 team is definitely going to be just staying on track with the next act of Squadron 42. And then what's really just going to happen is those assets that were locked in for Act 1 will be freed up to use for the Star Citizen teams. Mm-hmm. So the teams aren't really going to be shifting. It's just assets will be freed up for the other teams to use once that one was going to be released. I don't see too much shifting here and there happening at all.
And if the question is when will those be released, is when Squadron 42 enters beta. Once Squadron 42 enters beta, a lot of those teams and those assets will start shifting over to Star Citizen, because they will no longer need to be built. They're just being maintained and improved. So, what do you think?
Who knows it?
Yeah. What was that, Nick? You said?
I was gonna say, but who knows? Maybe they might actually already start having before even releases, they can start releasing those assets to be used by the PU team. So we could start to see it come in immediately after if they're working on it background right now. Who knows?
Yeah, the thing is it does take time. It takes 3 to 6 months sometimes to transport those assets from Squadron 42 to Star Citizen. So it's not like
or much longer if we're talking about the Idris. Because the Idris was in Squadron 42, set up to work in Squadron 42 with all that scripting and the NPCs and the story mode for Squadron 42 ages ago. But we still don't have it in Star Citizen because setting it up for players to work on, to have access, like, because in Squadron 42 you're a pilot, you don't have to worry about all these components
outside of
the engineers are talking about. Those are actually just going to be run by the game. But in Star Citizen, you will have to manually be responsible for everything that happens on the ship. Yeah. In Squadron, it's just happening all in the background. So it is a completely different beast. It could be it's just a completely different, other than geometry, completely different asset.
Yeah, that's an example of why Odin would take a long time to might take a long time, because it's all built for Squadron,
because Squadron 42, they're just scripting what it is. They don't need to have the ship. They can just have a ship in one state for this scene, and then you go away, something happens, and then just have it already loaded in another state for the next scene. It's like they can just swap out assets like that. That's why single player games are just very different from a multiplayer game. Yeah. With a multiplayer game, we all need to be controlling these variables. These are all being calculated on a server at real time. A single player game, it's just like, we just need this to blow up right now. We just script it to blow up right now.
Yep. And, Death Tripper, you can say that we're drinking the copium Kool-Aid, but it's facts.
Yeah.
That is how single player games are different from multiplayer games, and that is why Squadron 42 technically should be a lot easier to implement. And but at the same time, more work.
Yeah, it's you can't take the Moby Glass, the new Moby Glass that's used for Squadron 42, and just bring it into Star Citizen. It won't work like that. They'll need to change it. They'll need to put in new little hooks. The mission system probably isn't exactly the same. So there's a lot of stuff they'll have to change when that gets brought over, and that takes work. So even if they get the new Moby Glass UI stuff completely done today, it might be a year before we see it in Star Citizen. Even that doesn't mean that we'll suddenly get magically released once Squadron 42 comes out. It just means that it just takes time for that transition to happen. So,
yeah, and even if it's made fully modular, the Moby Glass for Squadron 42 is going to have things that the civilian version for Star Citizen is not going to have, and vice versa. Like the ship chat, and just a bunch of random lines that the lore team is writing up right now that are just going to randomly pop up for stuff that doesn't matter, that's not actually happening. It's just to give the impression of that something's happening on the ship, but that's just going to be chat in Star Citizen.
And to answer a question, because someone already just came in, Buck's like, well, after they're just going to work on part 2. It's like, not the whole team. Like, they don't have to build everything from scratch. They don't have to build a brand new UI from scratch, which is why that team's working on UI. They don't have to build a new EVA system from scratch, which is why they're only working on the EVA only for Squadron. It's
and Act Part 2 will mostly be like new locations, new mocap,
new ships.
Maybe new ships if they're making new ships, or say they lose a fight and they're like, well, we need to make a new ship for the Act 2. We need a new one. Make a new ship, sell the concept. Let's go.
Yeah,
exactly. And
sell a concept from 7 years ago. Yeah.
Well, and that's also one of the things that I think Star Citizen becomes, because right now Squadron 42 is the incubator for the stuff that's going to come into Star Citizen. I think once Squadron 42 is out, I think Star Citizen becomes the incubator for ideas that they want to implement in future Squadron games, because now they can,
maybe not even Squadron games, maybe completely different IP,
different IPs, or probably same IP.
Not IP, but different story modes, storylines. Maybe not military, maybe civilian single player.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, citizen, not civilian. There's a difference.
Yes. There is a difference
between
civilian citizen.
That's why.
Or civilian, Star
Civilian.
Yeah.
Civilian citizen.
Once you learn that little piece of information of once you've been in prison and jailed, you can no longer be a citizen. Yeah. And that's why I find it so funny when you leave Klesher, you're like, welcome to the world, civilian.
Yeah. Just the stab Stab!
Oh,
Stab!
Never even thought about that.
Yeah.
They're just rubbing in.
just
You're no longer a citizen. You're a
Yeah.
civilian now.
yeah.
So you have to re-enlist?
Technically, that would be great if you lost your citizenship and you have to
God,
go back
every time
in
you
order
go
to get
to
it
Clash,
back.
you have to replay Squadron 42.
42. To get your citizenship status back. Oh, the ultimate replay mode where they're forcing you to replay the game so you
Yes,
can.
Squadron 42 has so much replayability if you're a bad guy in Star Citizen.
I wonder if, like, actually having and obtaining citizenship in Star Citizen will actually mean something down the road as a reputation thing. And you actually go to prison and you lose it for good. It'll be like, oh, now I don't have that rep to go anywhere now or do all these things.
Yeah.
I can't vote anymore.
All right. So I think we were going to talk about it is like how fast we're going to be moving in because we kind of done that to death. But it's a topic that comes up a lot because there's a lot of misinformation that floats around because CIG is very hush-hush about Squadron in general, and they're very bad at explaining how Squadron and Star Citizen are linked because, they don't want to because it's a whole bundle of bullshit that they have to unwind for it. So, all right. Jerbear Life asks, would you like a medium/large alien multi-role ship, like a size of a Connie or BMM? Well, BMM is huge, or like a Connie-sized BMM. Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, more alien ships.
Yes.
Maybe by Ngatak.
Yeah, maybe it depends if I could fit a Xi'an hover tank in it though.
How about a Tavaran hover tank?
No, I've been hanging out with this dude on Discord, and it's like
podcast.
not only this podcast, but every time you freaking open your mouth about Star Citizen.
Yes, it comes up all the time. Xi'an hover tank.
I want to see it. I want to see it. That's all I want to say.
It's gonna be the Wraith from Halo, and we all know it. So like, let's just accept that we have
look and play great.
Yes. It'll be absolutely overpowered when it comes out. Unknown Guardian
like
asks,
the Ares.
Yes, and then nerfed into the ground. What are your hopes for after server meshing and Pyro actually work? How frequent will CIG release new systems, assuming they got them ready to go? I would say initially every 6 months to a year, and then
I'd love for them to actually do once every quarter, once every major patch. Yeah,
I think once they hit the stride, they could do once every quarter, because
but that would still take decades.
Well, they could do multiples eventually.
Yeah, they'd have to.
Yeah, there's a lot of empty systems too that they can just quickly get in and done with this procedural tech. Especially when the procedural tech right now is kind of in a place where they can just kind of plop on a planet now.
Yeah.
Right. As long as
especially if they don't need any landing zones or like points of interest on a planet where it's just barren raw. They could definitely do an entire system in like a month. And that's one person, that's just Pascal.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Darsh? How quickly do you think it'll happen? At least like initially.
As initially, I would say, it'll be at least a year before we see. Well, I asked in the previous section that maybe like. Okay, so. The point at which we'll start seeing, the actual decrease in cadence to new systems is after we get Nix, because Pyro will be a prototype for server meshing, but Nix will be the first implementation of proper server meshing, stable server meshing, and then we'll see just how, because considering how many devs there are, it's possible they have a lot of stuff already waiting, but they will also be telling us about it, or would they?
Or would they? That's the thing. It's like, or would they? They might want to say something that, hey, maybe we actually have 5 systems ready to go. We're just waiting to release them when we get to a point where we can. Who knows? Only CIG.
There's still, still a lot of people right now working for not that much visible progress right now.
Mm-hmm. And the problem is that a lot of that stuff, it may be like they're doing a little thing here, they're doing a little thing there, they're doing like they're doing small like updates. Maybe there's a dev doing Terra, like sitting down and looking at Terra Prime and like just as an experiment to see how they could approach it in different ways, because but does that mean that guy's building Terra Prime? No, it means he's doing an experiment with Terra Prime to see how it would work on his machine and stuff like that. Or people always bring out like, well, Green's done because Green is the new planet that's underneath the Murray Cup racing for Arena Commander, and it's there. It's like, no, it's not. It's just
it's placed there. But
yeah, it's not going to be the final Green.
It's not built out.
No, but when Green is actually released for Star Citizen, the map, the underground below the racetrack is going to be replaced as well. So
yeah. So, what do you think, Nick? How many do you think we're going to see? What's the cadence of those releases?
I think with how server meshing is going to go, it's going to go pretty roughly in the start. So I wouldn't expect to see Nyx come in within at least 6 months to get the next one in. And then after that, I could probably see them connecting probably once every quarter. And then once they get that, they could probably ramp up to like a few a quarter. Especially with the lighter, easier systems that are just kind of barren.
Yeah, the big ones are going to take a while, so I believe there'll be some sort of story mode where it's the jump points are severed for some reason, and it's going to take a while. And
they'll just not talk about it.
Yeah.
They could also just connect around them. Like jump points are just like a 3D loading object where it's just going to send you to another system. They don't need to have the jump point in for the connecting systems. They could just bypass them for now.
I don't know. I think they will go. They will follow the star map.
Yeah, I think they will. In general, I don't think they'll overpass. I think it's also important to note that like systems are important. They're important to the game. They're important to add variety, but systems aren't as important as gameplay. And the real thing that like server meshing is coming out for is what we'll do for the game isn't Pyro. It will unblock a bunch of other shit they've been trying to do because they've been bottlenecked by entities per server causing problems. So things like AI, things like new mission systems, and there's lots of different elements of the game that they've been bottlenecked because they can't have too many things loaded in a server at once. But now, once you split the server into 2 for, say, Stanton, now you suddenly you can double the amount of entities you have in those servers, which means you can do more content, more gameplay.
The only thing gameplay wise that I think that new systems are going to bring in is long distance hauling.
Yeah.
Other than that, nothing that they bring in is going to They can't bring anything else that you wouldn't be able to just introduce in Stanton without introducing new planets.
The only other thing would be across system missions would be like, this gang wants to go attack, a rival gang or, attack an outpost in another system. Outside of that, it's still just kind of the same mission that you can do in the same system, but, connecting it between servers is kind of like the only real new thing there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and I think I do also want to highlight and underline, because there's a lot of people in the chat being like, "Oh, you're being optimistic." It's like Nyx is just Delevsky. That's all it is. Everything else is just empty, and there will be systems that are mostly empty. The reason why Stanton took so long is because it has 4 landing zones. It's one of the few places that has multiple landing zones in the system. Most of them have 1. A lot of them just have 0. So, and that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Another thing I would be interested to see.
What is the point of empty systems like
player? player generated, no null-sec player interactions,
Yep.
and there's some
rare
stories
minerals for like
Well,
mining and stuff.
no, but the thing is, if there's a lot of rare minerals, corporations would have gotten there and created a foothold.
Yeah,
but
So they could control the minerals.
Yeah, but
there's
sometimes
no,
there's
like-
a lot of bureaucracy around some of these locations. Some of them are just like barred off from the UEE, where like you're kind of trespassing just going into that system.
Yeah,
So
because of
if
the
you're-
Fair
if
Chance
you're
Act
go-
or something.
Yeah,
you know.
if you're going in there, you're mining illegally. So like you shouldn't be
Yeah,
in
but like
there.
I said before, the only thing that makes something legal or illegal is whatever we agreed to it.
Yeah.
It's like, so as soon as you're outside of UEE, which a lot of people plan to do, so they don't want to be citizens, they want to be free citizens, in Pyro or in Nix or whatever, they don't have to abide by UAE laws anymore. So whose rules are they going to follow that they say what they can and can't do?
The local
Yeah,
authorities.
they'll follow the laws of who they agree upon.
Whoever has the
not
biggest
UAE.
gun.
Yeah, you has the biggest
At that
gun.
point, yeah.
But that's the point. Like we talk about, like I've talked about things like Castra. There's another great place that has no landing zones. That's just stations, which is Hadrian, which is nearby. It has a bunch of gas giants. Which
Hadrian's a cool system.
But it's got like its landing zone is a space station. It's called the Reef, Kelto Reef, which is just a giant collection of stations that have been daisy chained together, Banu style.
Ooh, so like a flotilla in Mass Effect.
Yeah, like
Yep.
it literally is a Banu
It's just a
flotilla.
bunch of connected ships and stations to make a big station landing zone.
but done humans version of a Banu flotilla. So, which is cool. Like that's the landing zone, but like that's just taking station assets and mashing them together like Legos. So, and then making some new kind of rooms and stuff like that. So, like once you start getting beyond what they're building right now, it becomes simpler because a lot of it becomes plug and play, or what takes them 2 months now will take them a week in the future. So it's hard to tell the consistency and speed of drops for systems because there's a lot more variables, but it's not a good idea to take a look at like Stanton and be like, oh, it took them 7 years to get Stanton finished. It's like, yeah, but that's with them building the tools for it. So, you good? Any more discussions? We're good for that?
No, we're good for that, I think, yeah.
Okay. Steve the Dancer asks, what are your guesses on the 3 unannounced vehicles and what will they be? Nick, what do you think?
Xi'an hover tank. Okay, I'm going to scrap that one and say no. That one's not going to be making it. But I think the one unannounced ship, I think it's going to be an announced ship that was already announced, and they just haven't talked about it. I mean, I think that's going to be given. I think one's going to be a new fly-ready ship. I'm not really... They haven't done a combat ship in a while, so I might say the new fighter. Maybe
They haven't done a combat ship in a while. The Fury.
True.
It is
True.
combat ship.
Yeah, but you
It's
can't
a
quantum
snub.
with that.
It's
It
a
doesn't
snub.
count.
Yeah.
It's such a little thing. And then before that was the Vulture, and then the other thing.
And the cutter, yeah.
And the cutter. They've just been doing a lot of little tiny small things. Well, I guess the Antares, but that ship already existed.
It was a
they
variant.
added
Yeah.
QD, the variants, and they've just been doing a lot of weird things. So I think a fresh new combat ship in some multi-role or a single seat would be interesting. And then,
I want to say there's a new Argo ship coming.
Yes, the MCV.
oh yeah,
No. The what?
The mobile construction vehicle.
Oh, right, that.
That leak that's a leak. It was data mined from
Yeah.
from a release. So
a mobile construction one. Okay, so that might be interesting.
that's it had like its own tag and everything like that in there. I think it was just leftover code, but I think it was. I think the concept is that the MCV is a mobile crafting ship. It's designed to build stuff. So it's like a smaller Pioneer.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
okay, I see. So like a mini Pioneer, where you can just like build tiny things.
Yeah. So
That'd be interesting, but my third and final guess would probably be a big ship, but not too big. like maybe a Connie-sized ship, something around there, something to just kind of generate a little bit of hype. But I don't think I don't know. I feel like CIG is kind of hitting a thing of let's not announce new big
Aegis and
ships.
Anvil don't really have like a Connie-sized ship, do they?
No.
The Aegis has the Vulcan, but that's been announced.
Valkyrie. The Anvil has Valkyrie.
Yeah, but
the Valkyrie's about Connie size.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, but it's less about like standalone.
Yeah.
Use, but it's
multi-role.
It's really as a troop transport.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people want to see an Anvil capital ship because that's been just like always talked about, but like honestly,
CIG's allergic to that shit right now.
I think if any mention of a capital ship being mentioned at CitizenCon, no. And if it'd be worse if they announced it and they said it's straight to viable.
Oh God.
Imagine
BMM
if did that.
The revolt of the BMM owners.
Like imagine if they announced a capital ship being the flight ready ship, straight to flyable. That would be like, I would pull my hair out. And I don't even have a capital ship, but just imagine the fires from that. Oh, that'd be hilarious. Oh.
Could be like a medium-sized mining ship from RSI.
Oh yeah, they were supposed to make that.
They were supposed to be the large miner, yeah.
That won a community vote, so that could be it.
I can tell you exactly what it is. I can tell you the 3 ships that are going to be released because
tell.
They were all leaked. One was an intentional leak, which is the variant of the Fury LX, I think.
Oh yeah, the racing.
The racing one, and then there's the 2 variants of the Cutter.
Oh
yeah, those are 3 easy gimmies. I can see that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're not doing big ships anymore.
Yeah, and we know that there were 2 variants that were being worked on by Montreal, and it's Montreal, so the crack poutine. So that the
poutine.
The poutine. They put the crack in the poutine. Like the cocaine is there's methamphetamines in the poutine. That's just how it works with those people.
The Montreal poutine is really good. I can't say that.
No, you have it wrong. It's they don't put crack in the poutine. It's just the poutine is that good.
Yeah, it's just that good. Yeah,
it's those aren't cheese curds. Those are rocks.
But this is nuts because they just got their ship team like March of this year, and if those 2 variants of the Cutter are Montreal's team, it's just like, damn, son. That's a turnaround. That's some turnaround.
You gotta understand, Montreal game dev is a whole different beast. Game devs in Montreal are they're a whole on a different level. That group of game devs up there.
Yeah, but there's not really much dev that's going on. There's potentially some new geometry and working around of the interior, but other than that, that's already stuff that's been developed for the game in the past. So they're just good at plugging it in.
Well, I think it's just a lot of. Look, what Montreal's really good at is taking the tools and then improving the tools, but also using the tools that they have. Like that's really what they excel at. And the fact that they are able to turn around stuff so quickly just means that CIG made good tools. It's just so many people CIG's been so focused on like gameplay and like expanding the current roster of things that like we rarely see CIG using tools the way they're supposed to be outside of very specific indications because they're constantly improving those tools. So when you see Montreal be able to like turn around specific outposts in months that would take CIG years beforehand, it's just like that's because they have the tool. Like
they have the tools now. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, next question comes from Jondon25, who asks, do you think that will change in lore from the old Baron Pyro to CIG's new vision for Star Citizen, and thus Pyro as well? What?
Huh?
Can we have that again in English?
Do you think that the change in lore from Old Baron Pyro to CIG's new vision for Star Citizen, and thus Pyro as well, it will take away the isolated feel of Pyro? Like a small ship will be able to travel around the whole system, and that wasn't the original vision. No, you could have always, it wasn't supposed to be isolated. It's just supposed to be dangerous. I don't know. What do you think?
No, but it's supposed to be a huge system that a small ship shouldn't be able to cross.
Yeah.
But I think that with Pyro we'll also see a rebalance of fuel consumption for quantum drives. Also, who let Galactica in this chat?
Galactica's in chat. Oh no.
Yeah.
Galactica's in chat. Yeah.
Everybody, look away.
She's commenting on my poor standards of choice for.
To be fair, I was already pre-scheduled to be on this one. Darjanator let himself in this time.
he pitch hit. He's a pitch hitter right now. So, let me pull up the other question. Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's changing that much. I just think that it's Pyro. What do you think, Nick?
It's supposed to be a lot more inhospitable with solar flares and hot planets. That's where the name Pyro is supposed to come from. But now it looks like it's going to be this lush paradise. I think that is what they're getting at.
I wouldn't say a yellow moss's paradise.
Yeah,
right? It's the original lore was supposed to be a lot more inhospitable, a lot more lava, a lot more magma, a lot more sun flares burning away the planets in the old lore.
Yeah.
But now in the new lore, they have atmospheres and are protected by those somewhat, unless you're... I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how those solar flare mechanics actually work with the planets that are facing the sun, if that's going to actually cause issues if you're onside that planet, or if you need to get into protection or whatnot, or get into the shade or whatnot. I don't know what it's going to be like at that point. Maybe that danger is still there, and it still is actually still relevant. But outside of them removing lava flows and these magma planets, I don't really think it's that big. I mean, they're free to refactor their lore anytime they want. I'm not going to complain about it.
It would be interesting to see if they eventually bring about Pyro's change into an inhospitable system while as like a long-lasting event.
Yeah, as like an over like a something taking place over time.
Yeah, it takes all of a sudden the sun starts flaring, and then it starts burning the planets, and you have there's like a 6 month or a year long event where you're asked to help evacuation or
like an event, like a dynamic event. I disagree that this is like they're lush paradises. I think the thing is, the honest to God answer is, and I did an entire video on this, which is you have to understand the context. Pyro was built in its original lore, existed in the time before planets could even be landable. And it's the second system in the game. So keeping it as this hellscape demon worlds that they were originally would not be intriguing places to visit or spend time in.
So the name Pyro still kind of
they've lored it a little bit because it was originally discovered by Pyrotechnic Amalgamated, so that's why it's called Pyro.
Okay, I guess. Yeah. I guess if you want a demon system, you could still have Hades.
Yeah, and they do. It's a graveyard. The Hades systems, the Hadesians were there, but also they can still keep the flares up there. The flares can still be a problem, and that's effectively what they've done. So, okay. Galactica's talking about how poor Jax is in there, and it's Jax and Jimmy. That's not Jimmy. That's Jim. Okay. He is no longer Jim.
At this point.
That's James. You referred to him as Mr. James. All right, chat? He is Mr. James.
He's Jimmy when he's in his shirt and tie, and he's James when he's in the white. Was it
the thick armor? Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Gillis Atter, who asks, "What is everyone drinking tonight?" Water. It's as big as my head.
Milk, but I'm out.
Yeah.
Coffee.
There we go.
I thought it was like hater steers.
Don't care.
Galaxy says, "Someone please cosplay a Swole Jimmy, Swole James,
Swole James, Mr. James.
Just been over this."
Yes, someone. So that'll be my cosplay for the next time I go for Austin Citizen Con. It will be the full armor, the full thick armor, and it'll just have a name tag that says James. Kavion asks, "Can my cutter make the trip from Stanton to Pyro?" Yes.
Yeah.
Any ship with a jump drive can go to Pyro.
Yep. And I believe if you open up the compartment for the cutter, there is above the quantum drive. There's like 3 connectors on the top of the quantum drive, and there's like a space. That's where the jump module goes in. Potentially, ships like the cutter won't come with a jump module, and that's going to be like quite an expensive upgrade.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see, we need to upgrade. You need to like establish like your finances and everything before you can leave the system you spawn in on.
Yeah, it's going to be like the price of the ship.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to remember that that's a classic privateer, Wing Commander privateer and freelancer thing. You had to buy your jump drive before you could leave. So, you know.
That's part of the story in what's the roguelite that turned into a RPG. Everspace. Yeah. Everspace, in Everspace too. That is also part of the main storyline. You can't jump to a new system for quite a bit.
Yeah,
you have to go repair and blah blah blah, whatever.
It's a good way to just force the player to get used to the game systems before you leave into harder, difficult territory.
Maybe speaking from experience there, Nick, maybe crawling the Underdark has kind of scarred you for life. Is that what we're seeing?
Yep.
Yeah,
yep. I think I might just need to reroll a character.
All right. Gillis Atter asks, "Will electronic components follow the bathtub curve for failure rates?" Is this CIG? So probably.
The fucking what?
I think it's a curve that talks about like how things break down over time, like how things break. I don't know exactly it. I've heard the term before, the bathtub curve.
Bathtub curve.
Failure rate bathtub curve.
Bathtub curve. Is it just like failure rate curve? Oh, is that the one that's like a bell curve?
Yeah, it's like an inverse, I think, bell curve.
Oh, right. Oh, I see. So you have a high chance of a component going wrong immediately just because it was built badly. Yeah. And then it drops off. And then you have nothing for a while. And then after a long time, you just reach the end point of a component's life. And then failures start climbing up again.
Mm-hmm. So. But wasn't the 2 engineers in your second whole lore video created an adorable jump drive? Yeah, but that was still filled. It's still required to be fit into an entire cargo bay. The modern jump drives just attached to the top of quantum drives, but they can still be incredibly expensive because it's still a jump drive. It's still like to put this into like lore context as to why jump drives could be in like theory expensive. What the jump drive does to your quantum drive is like it hooks into your quantum drive and scrambles its brains. So, because that's how Nick Croshaw did the first jump. He didn't do this, but effectively, he took a hammer and then smashed his jump drive enough so that it mimicked the brokenness of the jump drives that had, or the quantum drives that had malfunctioned and caused the jump point to open in the first place. And all that a modern jump drive does is just mimic that whole brokenness. But if it's calibrated wrong, you're dead. So it's got to be incredibly well calibrated for it to work properly. So, all right. Steve the Dancer asks, and this is a question for Darj as he's gone. Steve the Dancer asks, how is JRDF MSR selling? Any new ships coming out? I believe it's. I'll let you say the good news, Darj.
No. I'll let Nick answer this one.
Great and yes.
Yeah.
We ever since launch, there was like a bit more than a month ago, we sold 160, a bit more than 160 of the 500 run. And when it comes to new ships, nothing big, no new big kits planned to release. But if John Crew wasn't actually in Montreal right now, he'd have 4 little tiny ones for review on his desk.
Nice.
That's what I can say.
500, 1 to 500 scale.
1 to 500, yeah.
See, so I was right.
I was going to say, the MSR is sold out, right?
No. So we had originally printed 162 of them, and we had sold out of those.
Yeah.
But there are currently about 90 of them on the shelf. So we have been printing a lot.
Okay, so just tell John, tell JR that if you do a Redeemer and you send me one, I will burn it. I will burn the box, and I will film myself burning the box.
I'll make sure to put a respirator with the with the ship, just because you don't want to burn resin. You want to breathe those things. Resin is bad.
I will find a way to do the most creative way of destroying that thing. I will find out if it is possible to shoot a piece of garbage into space, and I will pay for that for a burned, destroyed, crushed, bathed in acid Redeemer model to have been shot into space.
No, but now you're giving me an awesome idea that we need to do. You know how there's been people who just take up a weather balloon or something like that and put something to it with a GoPro and send it up. Yeah. Why haven't we done that with the JRDF model yet?
Why haven't you?
Fuck, JR. But we kind of need to do that now. We kind of need to do that right now. But yeah, so half of the MSRs that will ever be sold have been printed and are on shelves now, and there's a stock of about 90.
Okay, I have to buy one.
And it is like the best selling kit ever.
It's a popular ship.
Numbers, yeah, and it's only $100.
Yeah, I mean, for context as well, it's $100 and it's like $30 shipping. So plus. So it depends
on where you are. If you're in the K, it's a couple of bucks. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the US, it's like $20 or $20 or $30.
Yeah, unfortunately, because international shipping and they're all produced in Scotland.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind. I get them. So if you're going to buy an MSR, buy the Gladiuses and the arrows. Is it Saber? Yeah, and the Saber, I think. Right, the other small ones. I can't remember the other one. The recent one was the Gladius, right?
The Gladius has just been released as a 1 to 500. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Gladius, we have a bunch of 1 to 500s. That is
buy a bunch more because they only ship once. Yes. Yeah, so buy a bunch if you're buying that. So
yeah, because shipping is only once. But that is the discount that I was talking about. If you go to one of the Bar Citizens, you will get a code. If you buy a kit, you get a small 1 to 500 diorama of your choice for free.
Oh, nice.
So that is the discount. Yeah.
All right, next question comes from John25, who asks, do you think that the change... Oh, no, I think he asked it twice, that's why. Death Troopers 177 asks, Do you think we will see dynamic economy in 3.20.x or 3.21 with the implementation of the whole C?
Well, the groundwork for a dynamic economy is in. It just depends on how many things they start plugging in to be controlled by it. It would be nice if to for all the actual hauling that people will be doing to make a difference.
Yeah,
but no, Jonathan, the dynamic economy does not need server meshing, because that is completely back end service, and server meshing controls how front end servers, like the game servers, talk to each other.
The backend economy operates separately from server meshing. Server meshing light layer connects and pulls data from the dynamic economy.
Is very high end, or is it very low end? It's just one of the two. It's not. It's yeah. Yeah. Well, what we need is a talk from Tony Z to tell us all about it.
Tony Z, we need answers and demonstrations.
Yeah.
Well, yes,
we need
what we need is
CitizenCon.
demonstrations. Yes.
We need CitizenCon.
All right. Next question. Or wait. Do you think? Well, I mean, I don't think we're going to see the dynamic economy anytime soon. I think it's on the back burner until 4.0.
It might be a surprise for 4.0, but I wouldn't expect until like a 4.x thing.
Yeah. It just,
I would think they would want to smooth out server meshing before adding a layer of economy.
It's like a completely full dynamic economy is a bit further out, but it's possible that they would just do the trading stuff.
Yeah, but I mean that's the big one.
Without manufacturing.
Attaching the commodities to the whole, like the commodities themselves to the economy. By doing that, they basically create the economy, because like that's big.
But it just depends on how deep they go. Does it go all the way down to mining, to production, to refining, to producing like the metals, the raw materials, and then to components? Or is it just going to be, it could be just that whatever we have as a bill of the list of tradables right now, that they'll just enable the dynamic economy for that without the entire production process behind it. So it could be done in steps. So yeah. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know. It's like the back end. I'd rather theory craft about gameplay than back end.
Yeah. The person to ask that question would be Tree0311. He's the one who would know more about that sort of thing, because he loves that sort of thing. So
get him on the show next week.
Yeah, I mean the next show is going to talk about Squad 42, and I still don't have anybody on signed up. So
I wanted to be on that show.
You can
just do a part. Can we just do a part two?
Just part two. All of a sudden,
this is the same thing Elliot did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're already at over 2 hours here, but you know,
we're wrapping up. We got 3 more questions and we're done. Kavion asks, "What are the chances we will see a new mobiGlas and in-game star map at CitizenCon?" I think high. I almost certainly we will see those showed off in some way, shape, or form.
With the new in-game mobiGlas and star map, I can see those being shown off. Yep. They've been talking and hinting at that new star map being worked on. I think it's going to be definitely shown at CitizenCon.
As I checked on the roadmap before, both of those are currently slated to wrap up around October. So definitely not to be released in October, but should definitely be in a demoable state.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Crystal King, who asks, Imperator Costigan was the OG Star Citizen Imperator, but now has been replaced with Lilani. The plan was probably to have Costigan be part of the game. What do you think the original plan was? I don't think the writers knew, honestly.
Yeah, they're just probably putting up names and things, and I think it's just one of those things where it's just like, it's probably one of those things where so much has been written off.
They just went up to Ortwin and asked, "Do you want to be in the game?" Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was one of those things where like they were waiting for the game to actually be able to support before they, because I when we interviewed Dave Haddock about the whole thing, he basically said that like they don't really come up with lore until they absolutely have to. So if they need to come up with lore for something that supports the game, they do that. But they don't have like a bunch of ideas in the background for tons of stuff. They have some ideas, but not a lot.
It's like until it needs to be observed, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. The uncertainty principle, Heisenberg uncertainty principle shit right here, you know. Or not Heisenberg uncertainty principle. What is it? It's
Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat. Yeah, similar concepts, but you know, it is both, the cat is both alive and dead at the same time. Until
it's written in both unwritten.
Yeah,
it exists and both doesn't.
But he created that mental experience to showcase the absurdity of people simplifying. Yeah, the absurdity of how some people have simplified quantum mechanics. It's not meant to explain how quantum mechanics works.
Listen, I thought he was just killing cats by poisoning them. All right, that's all I got from that.
Or was he?
He was alive. You don't know until you observe it.
Yeah, he was just fucking with he was just giving excuses for his serial murder of cats by poisoning them. It was just his excuse for it. I'm an author myself and find it very hard or very weird to have no idea. It's more that this is like, you got to remember that Star Citizen is not a completed work. This is a rough draft. So they have ideas, they have sketches of what they want to see in the universe, but they don't have, they have like the big picture stuff. They don't have the tiny details.
Yeah.
So
it's like they're going to go through and have bullet point things of like, you know, things in lore and the story.
Yeah.
But they're not going to flesh out the details and expand upon that unless it's absolutely necessary. Where it's just like, oh, we're going into the system and we're going to be doing missions with these guys. Okay, let's take that bullet point and actually expand it out. That this gang, okay, now we need to name a leader. What's his motive? Who's he after? Who's this guy? What's he talking to? What's their drama?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but
unless it's needed, they don't need to write it out.
So they probably had ideas of who Costigan was. I mean, they did, obviously. They have a character for who he is. But they didn't know exactly what they wanted him to do. So they're like, Costigan is the Imperator, and we know that he's getting involved. He gets involved with the Vanduul because, you know, the attack on Vega happens and he declares war on the Vanduul. That's about probably the extent that they had, and they probably had some personality ideas. But I'm sure they didn't have a full concept of what they wanted Costigan to do in game. So,
and it's taken so long that they don't need to,
unless
some past scandals come up, or if his descendants wants to do something to overthrow the government. There's so many different stories they could take it with. It's like,
who knows? You might end up trapped to the Vanduul and have to have a conversation with them and figure out, oh wait, he was actually the good guys, and he was actually the bad guy.
Yes, please.
And the old and it's going to be the old fan favorite that the Vanduul are running from the Kurthak.
Yes, or somebody else.
Other humans. The Kurthak is so massive; they actually surrounded both the Vanduul space and Xi'an space, and they're closing in. Boom, boom, boom.
Just closing the net.
Just surrounding all 100 systems and closing in.
Yeah,
the Kurthak is just so massive.
All right, the last question is from Vincenti 0510. And this is, I think, a question mostly for me because it's specifically about the lore. What do you think is the long-term narrative plan? What is the story CIG is trying to tell with the verse? There is no... From talking with Dave Haddock, it doesn't seem like there's an agenda for what the universe will be. They have specific plot points, which they've mentioned many times. Earth is going to be sacked by the Vanduul at some point. There will be a civil war in the UEE between Terra and Earth. A split, at least, between those two for an Eastern and Western Empire. There are lots of little story points, like the Synth World Project, what I've been calling the Third Tevaran War. There's set up for like an entire breakdown of the Xi'an to go into what effectively is the Warring States period from Chinese history, the Three Kingdoms era, that could happen. There is the Banu are just vibing because the Banu just
vibe. They're just like,
vibe.
Y'all just have your war, man. We'll just be out here in our BMMs having some hookah and
selling you the guns, baby. You know, selling guns to both sides. So
basically it's going to be French nihilism. Like this shit, get used to it.
Well, it's heavily based on the fall of the Roman Empire, and so if you look at that time period of the fall of the Roman Empire, the Xi'an are analogous to the Persians and the Chinese, the Han Dynasty, and the thing is that during the fall of the Roman Empire, the Persians were falling and the Chinese were falling. Everyone was falling. Nobody was having a good time in Africa, Europe, or Asia. Things were just going bad. So like the whole that's the kind of the flow of it, and they want to give as much power as possible for the players to kind of make those decisions and kind of leave it in there for that. So that makes sense. Yeah, that's just basically it. Thank you so much for Darj and Nick for coming on. Make sure you check them out in their social medias. Check out Darjanator.com, and make sure you check out Nick at twitch.tv/HeyItsNick and youtube.com/HeyItsNick as well, right? Or Threads.
I do have a YouTube. I actually had recently put out a video, not too recently, but I did do a deep dive into the Star Citizen shield, and I kind of actually programmed and prototyped my own shield system that replicates Star Citizen shield system, and I just played around with the variables.
And you based it around a Xi'an hover tank, right?
Yeah. Actually, no mention of Xi'an hover tank. No, but I just went over the variables and just I changed the variables and how shields work, and just showed visually how much just changing the shield regen rate, the shield regen rate would drastically affect, or the regen delay, how much manipulating the shield damage regen delay would affect gameplay, and give a visualization on how that would actually work. So yeah, it was if you want to go deep with actual programming and stuff, I will actually. I have it on my YouTube, but other than me, it's just me saying I want faster regen. It would be fun.
and chat is pounding on me because they're like, when's part 4 of the complete history? I don't know. Hopefully August. When YouTube stops hating Star Citizen content, it'll
you got 10 days.
So yeah.
Get all your Star Citizen content ready for October 11th.
Yes, 2 weeks before. 2 weeks before CitizenCon. That's just perfect. So it'll come out. It'll come out soon. It'll probably be the next Star Citizen lore video I do, but it may take some time. So when he stops playing Starfield. Shh. Yep.
I cannot talk about that.
I can't talk about that until the first.
But that's why he's not playing Baldur's Gate.
Anyways, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back on. I'll be back next week for more content as well. And of course, if you're watching this after the fact, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts on any of these things are. If you're watching this on Twitch, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's the little bell icon and the little drop down menu, and say get all notifications. There's no when we go live for these and these go up. And of course, like the video to help spread the word as well. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
It is Pringles.
There we go. We're back. I'm waiting until it's a good point so I can.
Can I say titty sprinkles now?
Yes, you can say it now.
I think it's going to be cut. Oh wait, you're not editing this anymore. You're just kind of
it's just going up there.
Yeah.
I'm basically stopping the stream on YouTube the moment I can. So.